The 1950s. America pulsed with contradictory energies. On the surface, it was the age of shiny chrome, suburban expansion, and unquestioning conformity. Beneath this veneer, however, a deep, paralyzing terror had taken root: the Cold War. The Soviet Union had detonated its first atomic bomb years ahead of schedule, shattering the American illusion of nuclear singularity. In the stark, wind-swept deserts of the American Southwest, a feverish billion-dollar project was underway. It wasn't about building a bigger bomb. It was about building an invisible shield. The new frontier of conflict was not above ground, but in the thin, volatile layer of atmosphere surrounding the Earth, and the prize was intercontinental reach. The protagonist of this story is Dr. Ilara Vance, a theoretical physicist from Princeton. Brilliant, fiercely independent, and profoundly idealistic, Ilara was brought in to the secretive Project Argus. Her team's mandate? To weaponize the Earth's own magnetosphere. They were tasked with creating, through a series of unprecedented high-altitude nuclear detonations, an artificial, radiation-filled belt that would theoretically fry the guidance systems of any incoming Soviet missile swarm. It was science fiction, made terrifyingly real. But the greatest threat to Project Argus didn't come from Moscow. It came from within the labyrinthine bureaucracy of the Pentagon and the pervasive rot of espionage. Against Ilara stands a formidable, silent adversary, Oleg Volkov, known only by his codename, the Needle. Volkov was a high-level KGB intelligence officer embedded deep within the military contracting community in Los Angeles. His mission was not merely to steal blueprints, but to understand the timing and impact of the Argus detonations. The Soviets had their own secret projects, and Volkov knew that if Argus went ahead, it would reveal a critical vulnerability in Moscow's nascent space-based communications network. In a world gripped by nuclear dread, where every calculation was life or death, Argus was a desperate gamble. This is the story of the scientists who tried to save the world by breaking the sky, and the spy who sought to neutralize the shield before it ever fully formed. This is the truth behind the fear, the politics, and the science that defined the mid-century global standoff. Chapter 1. The Scars of the Sky. 1. The Pressure of the Impossible. The year is 1958. Dr. Ilara Vance was an anomaly in the stark concrete bunkers of the Nevada test site. A woman running a project of this scale, leading a team of largely older, often patronizing male engineers. She was 32, sharp-featured, and rarely slept. Her mind lived permanently in the chaotic, elegant world of plasma physics and particle acceleration. Her immediate supervisor, General Marcus Thorne, saw her genius but despised her skepticism. Thorne was a creature of dogma, believing that might equaled safety. He viewed the Argus project as the ultimate deterrent, a way to permanently close the missile gap that terrified Washington. "Dr. Vance," Thorne barked during a classified briefing, tapping a pointer against a map of the globe showing Soviet missile trajectories. "Your models suggest a 20% chance of unpredictable atmospheric instability. That's too high. I need certainty. The Russians aren't waiting for us to finish our tea." Ilara pushed back, as always. "General, we are operating in a domain no human has ever touched, the exosphere and the inner Van Allen belt. The magnetic field lines are fickle. We are using low-yield,
optimized warheads, the Argus charges, launched from ships far at sea, detonated hundreds of kilometers above the surface. We can model the initial decay, but the long-term cascading effects on radio communications, weather, and the Earth's natural radiation belts are unknowns. The theoretical breakthrough that had vaulted Ilara to this position was her unique understanding of geomagnetic conjugacy, the principle that a particle injected into the magnetic field at one point in the southern hemisphere would spiral and manifest almost simultaneously at a magnetically conjugate point in the northern hemisphere. This meant they could create the belt with a single, synchronized, perfectly timed detonation cluster. The precision required was supernatural. The Los Angeles Nexus. Meanwhile, 1,000 miles west, in the humming, sprawling defense contracting ecosystem of Los Angeles, Oleg Volkov was tightening his grip. Volkov was exceptionally fluent in English, posing as Arthur Finch, a quality assurance inspector for Aerotech Dynamics, a shell company supplying specialized guidance components to Project Argus. He lived the American dream, a modest house in the valley, a new Ford Fairlane, and a subscription to Life magazine. His life was meticulously calibrated to be invisible. Volkov operated under the cover of legitimate business, using a sophisticated network of recruited agents, disgruntled engineers, financially desperate clerical staff, and ideologically sympathetic academics. Volkov was not interested in the yield of the bombs. He was interested in the trajectory and the projected latitude of the detonation's impact on the magnetic field. His intelligence from Moscow indicated that Argus was dangerously close to a sensitive orbital corridor the Soviets were testing for their own satellite navigation system, codenamed Almaz. A successful Argus test could cripple Almaz before it launched, costing the USSR years of advancement. One evening, in a smoke-filled, innocuous bar in Burbank frequented by defense contractors, Oleg Volkov met with his most valuable and most compromised asset, Stanley Kerr. Stanley was a mid-level manager at the naval facility overseeing the deep-sea launch system for the Argus rockets. Kerr wasn't a communist. He was simply drowning in medical debt for his sick daughter. Volkov handed him an envelope thick with freshly minted cash. Arthur spoke softly. "Stanley, I need the final positioning coordinates for the USS Norton Sound. The date is less important than the map coordinates. Is the ship truly 7,000 nautical miles south of the Atlantic missile range, or is that a cover?" Kerr looked at the money, then at his trembling hands. The moral shield he used to protect himself was cracking. Volkov had found the chink in the American armor, not ideology, but human weakness. I-3. The final calculations. Back at the test site, Ilara felt the weight of her impossible choice. The math was flawless, yet the unknowns were terrifying. Her team had discovered an unexpected oscillatory resonance in the magnetic field model, suggesting the artificial belt might take longer to dissipate than predicted, possibly decades rather than months. If so, they weren't just disrupting Soviet missiles, they were permanently modifying the space environment for all future satellites, American and Russian alike. She held a printout of her final safety review, signed only by her. The detonation sequence was greenlit for 3 days hence. General Thorne called her into his office, his face flushed with triumph. "Dr. Vance, the coordinates are confirmed. The fleet is positioned. This is the moment we show the world what American physics can achieve." Ilara looked at the general, not at the map, but into the chilling reality of their project. General, we must delay. My models show that if the third charge detonates even 0.05 seconds late, the resulting particle shower will not shield, but rather create a massive, permanent electromagnetic pulse over a civilian population center in the northern hemisphere. Thorne smiled, a cold military smile. Doctor, war is an inexact science. We take the risk. Argus proceeds on schedule. The sky waits for no one. Ilara knew she had 3 days. She had to find the flaw, stop the launch, or expose the terrifying hidden costs of the invisible shield they were about to deploy. The fate of the exosphere and the millions beneath it rested on her silent calculation.